Welcome to Live Better Longer. I'm your host, Bill Borton. Every year, over 10,000 baby boomers turn 65. And survey after survey say that their biggest fear is outliving their money, followed closely by healthcare costs eroding their nest egg. My guest this week is Kerry Pechter. Kerry is the editor of Retirement Income Journal, which he founded 10 years ago. Each week, he publishes articles and interviews with academics and industry experts. He's also the author of Annuities for Dummies, which is available on Amazon.com. Kerry, welcome to Live Better Longer. It's a pleasure.
Thanks for inviting me again, Bill.
Yes, it's great to have you on the show again. So, Kerry, tell me a little bit about the Retirement Income Journal.
I started the Retirement Income Journal in the spring of 2009 to write about the general overall global, national, and personal retirement crisis that we're facing. The crisis consists of sort of two components. One is that there's people who don't have enough money to retire on in the United States, and then secondly, there's people who have enough people who have enough to retire on, but who don't know how to turn their savings into an income that will last their whole life and enable them to deal with all the unusual problems that come up during retirement.
And this is certainly something that's near and dear to my heart. I refer to myself as a retirement risk manager and income planner. And so we both are looking at the same subject, but from slightly different perspectives. So you mentioned before the show that you had a personal story that you wanted to share.
Well, yes, it's one thing to talk about this problem in large abstract or group terms, but in my own family, my father did not plan his retirement very well, and he eventually ran out of money while he was still alive. He wasn't in good health. He didn't think he was going to live till 83. He didn't save enough to live till 83, and he didn't have a good plan, and he ended up running out of money, and it becomes very, very awkward late in life to face that situation and have to turn to your children so I've discovered in my own life just how important it is to plan carefully for your retirement and how you're going to take your savings and spread it out over a period of at least 20 years probably, and maybe longer.
Absolutely. So longevity is really the biggest risk that we all face in retirement because, as Tom Hegna says, it's a risk multiplier for the other risks. And so we don't know how long we're going to live, and so retirement income strategies need to take that into consideration. So tell me about some of the retirement income strategies that you typically see people recommending or practicing.
Well, you can slice and dice, and you can attack this problem in any of 1,000 different ways, but let me break into first I'll deal with a couple of 4 different methods that you can use that don't really involve buying any more complex products than just stocks and bonds. And I think we'll start with the simplest that require the least planning and work up towards ones that are a little more complicated.
Okay.
The first would be what a friend of mine, an advisor, calls the assume and consume path. And this is essentially the no path, the no plan path to retirement income. You just have your savings, some of it's in an IRA here or a 401k there or a bank there. And as you pay your monthly expenses in retirement, you draw down money from that or write checks against it, and hope for the best. Hope that you're going to have enough money in the long run. I don't recommend this. There are just too many things that come up in retirement that you have to plan for, and you don't want to be in retirement and wondering exactly where your next check is from, and you don't want to be sitting there when the stock market goes down and wondering I need to stop spending cold.
Well, there's two potential problems with that. One is that you underspend and leave a lot of money on the table and don't live as well as you might if you'd had a plan. And the other is obviously unexpected things come up. You erode the money quicker than you had thought you would, and you end up like your dad did.
Yeah, you really don't want to wing it that way in retirement, though that's what many people will do. The second one I would say would be the, and this is a traditional one for people who have a considerable amount of savings, and that would just be to invest in dividend stocks and bonds and then live on the interest and the dividends from your holdings.
Yeah, you never run out of money that way, but unless you have a lot of money, it's probably not going to generate enough income.
Right. You figure that whatever the dividend yield is or the bond yield is, let's say right now it's 2.5% from dividends maybe and 3% from bonds. If you can live on 3% of your savings, so that if you had $1 million, 3% would be $30,000 a year. If that's all you need in addition to Social Security, then you can live on your dividends and interest. And that's very good if you plan ahead and maximize your Social Security and also minimize your expenses in retirement. If you're beyond your house, if you have no house payments, no kids' tuition payments, no car payments, and your roof is already fixed, then you might be able to live on 3% if you've got about $1 million saved. If you go to a financial advisor, I'm moving on to the third thing, which we call the safe withdrawal method. And if you go to a financial advisor, he or she is probably going to recommend some variation of this. It's what you do is it's very straightforward. You invest your money into a balanced portfolio of stocks and bonds. It's usually about 60% stocks and 40% bonds, and you will and then you withdraw no more than 4% a year, with adjustments upward for inflation each year. You withdraw no more than 4% a year. So if you have $800,000 saved, it's in stocks and bonds, you spend $32,000 a year from that. Next year you spend $33,000 a year. The next year you spend $34,000 a year, something like that. And meanwhile, the assumption is that your stocks and bonds, your portfolio, is growing at a rate of about 8% on average. So and when you go to a financial advisor, they will show you diagrams that show that your money is increasing even as you spend, and that you have about twice as much money when you die as when you start retirement. That's a kind of a rosy way of looking at it. And you have experience with the 4% rule, so you know the pros and cons.
The market, back when Bill Bengen came up with the 4% rule, was over 20 years ago. The market was, typically yielding 8% on average. The prognosticators that I've been reading about lately are saying 5 to 6% going forward in the equity markets. And so, Dr. Wade Pfau has suggested that 2.78 or something like that percent, closer to 3%, might be a safer withdrawal amount. Of course, there's a lot of people that argue that point and say that you could draw 5 and then always scale back if you need to. So, but it's all hypothetical, really.
Right, and it usually, if an advisor will show you something called a Monte Carlo simulation that will show the odds or the chances that you'll run out of money and the odds or that you don't. And this takes. This is like a little bit like being on a diet, and again, you don't know exactly. 4% a year might not be enough. In some years, you might need to take out 10%, and you've got to have a plan for that too.
Well, another alternative that we don't really want to spend too much time on today, but a lot of people have home equity, and so that could be a significant source of income, tax-free income, through a HECM or a reverse mortgage, where you can literally have a credit line that you can write checks against when you need unexpected money, or when you have a down market. And help smooth things out a little bit.
That's right. Even if you don't get a reverse mortgage and lock in an income stream for the future, that if you don't do that equity drawdown, you can, as a precaution at the beginning of retirement, you can set up a home equity line of credit with a zero balance. It costs a couple of $1,000s to do that, but you can do that, and you set up the home equity line of credit, and if the stock market drops and you don't want to sell stocks while they're depressed, then you can dip into your home equity line of credit.
Sure.
And the idea is that when the stocks bounce back, then you can pay off that home equity line of credit, and then there won't be that burden against your house.
So there was one more strategy, and I think you referred to the bucket strategy?
Yes. Yeah, this is one of my favorite strategies, and it's popular among some advisors. It basically breaks your retirement into, it's also called time segmentation strategy, and it breaks your retirement up into, say, 3, 4, 5 multi-year segments. And for each segment, you take a piece of your savings and you dedicate that savings to that piece of your, so let's say you wanted to plan for the first 15 years of retirement. You'd say, okay, I will take this chunk of money and that will be assigned to these, that will provide income over this 5 years. Then you say, I'll take this chunk of money and say that I'll assign that to the liability of my expenses in the middle 5 years, and then I'll take this chunk and apply it to the 15 years. Now, what gives that power is that you put cash, usually investments or safe investments like treasury bonds, into the first 5 buckets, so that no matter what happens, if the stock market fails or goes down considerably in the first 5 years, you don't have to worry because you have cash to cover it. In the middle 5 years, you've got bonds so that you know that they'll gradually grow, and then you have equities that you're not going to tap for another 10 years. And the idea is that you can tolerate a lot of volatility in equities if you don't need them for at least 5 years.
Kind of what I think Tom Hegna calls, again, the go slow, and no-go years. The 3 buckets, that you would describe kind of can be applied to those 3 stages of your retirement, when you're enjoying life in the early years, slowing down in the middle part of your retirement years, and then the end of life years where you're just getting by, maybe physically or cognitively. But we need to take a break for a word from our sponsors, Kerry, and when we come back, we'll talk about some other income strategies.
Great.
This is Bill Borton. We'll be back in a minute after a word from our sponsors with more Live Better Longer.
NTV is a platform for people of any industry to share their story. Over 285,000 viewers are tuning in to RVN TV shows monthly. We guarantee a great experience that you'll be sharing with everyone you know while increasing your personal and company's brand awareness. But what is your brand? According to Forbes, it's a combination of your logo, your product, your design and feel, and your personality. Did you know that aside from being a guest, we offer even more opportunity to boost your brand? Adding your company logo and website on screen during your interview will allow viewers to recognize your brand instantly. Incorporating images and video clips is another great way to showcase your product during your live segment. Let viewers see how good you really are. And most importantly, there's you and your interview. For less than the cost of a newspaper, direct mail, or a magazine ad, you can leave our studio and within 48 hours have a permanent digital copy of your live segment to link to your social media, embed into your company website, or use in email marketing. Investing in your brand is so very important, and we can't wait to have you as a guest.
Welcome back to Live Better Longer. I'm Bill Borton here with Kerry Pechter from the Retirement Income Journal. So Kerry, we were talking before the break about different retirement income strategies. Back in the good old days, people used to have pensions in addition to Social Security, and most people were able to live within their means and get to the end of whatever their life was that way without running out of money. These days, pensions are few and far between, and so people are looking at other ways of creating income streams that they can't outlive. And so we both know that annuities, which have been around a long time, is a way you can create a personal pension but we also know that annuities are very controversial for a lot of reasons. So let's talk, without going into too much depth, about the more traditional kinds of annuities when it comes to income.
Well, it's true that a lot of people, when they sit down with a financial advisor to talk about their retirement, if they do it all, they will say right at the beginning, you know, whatever, you know, just let's take annuities off the table. I don't want an annuity. I've read about annuities, and I don't really want one. And I think it's perfectly fine to be as wary of annuities as you are of any other financial instrument. But I feel very strongly, and this is a theme that I come back to over and over again, is that if you're a boomer and you're not wealthy, which means, which I would call have at least $1 million in savings, you absolutely must understand annuities, because they're one of the few ways where you can actually squeeze more income out of a limited amount of savings than through any other method.
Well, not only more income, but also income that will keep coming no matter how long you live.
Yes, absolutely, and you can't underestimate people in their 60s. They feel great, and they think that they're going to be fine. They kind of extrapolate the way they feel. But you do not want to be 80 years old and having to squint at your accounting books every month and try to figure out where your income is going to come from. You want that to be taken care of by then. You want it to be on autopilot, and that's one of the things that annuities can do.
Yeah, you want a paycheck. We live our lives
Yes.
on paychecks. We want a paycheck in retirement.
Yes.
So I know there are, again, the traditional annuities. You have a single premium immediate annuity, they call it a SPIA, and then you have a deferred income annuity, or a DIA, and these are annuities that have been around and been sold by insurance companies since the beginning of time. And they're basically, you give a pile of money over to an insurance company, and with a SPIA, you start getting income right away. And with a deferred income annuity, you can defer the income coming in for a period of years.
Yeah. Yeah.
Then when you start drawing income, how does that work?
How does a SPIA work? A SPIA is it's a single premium immediate annuity. Single premium means you pay a single lump sum to the insurance company, and immediate means that you technically it means that you take your income starting within 13 months after you buy the annuity. And now you would think, well, why in the world would anybody buy this kind of thing? You give up. It's like Jack turning over the cow for 4 magic beans. Why would you turn over all your money or part of your money? You'd never put all of your money in it to an insurance company. Well, the payoff is that, remember we talked about the 4% rule. Okay, 4%. If you take 4% of your money every year, you'll never run out. Well, a immediate annuity will allow you to spend 6% of your money for as long as you live without ever running out. So you get half again as much income per month from buying an immediate annuity, and that's why people do it. That's often lost from the occasion. Now, a deferred income annuity, which is called a DIA, is simply, it's like a SPIA, only there's a delay between the date when you buy it and the date when you start taking income.
So instead of the first 13 months, it might be 5 years.
Could be 5 years or 10 years or 15 years. And you would buy it at a discount, which means you would pay less for it because the money would be growing over time, and then income would kick in. Now, I should say that hardly anyone buys these products, and the only people who, and generally most of the people who buy them will be people who have a career insurance agent working with them. That would be, say, an agent from New York Life, and those are the folks who generally sell the most single premium immediate annuities and deferred income annuities. Most of the independent advisors you run into, they will not recommend these products.
And so I know, because annuities are near and dear to my heart, I understand, and the commissions that are paid on DIAs and SPIAs are lower than some of the other kinds of annuities that people buy or sell. But also, again, a lot of people don't like turning over all the money to the insurance company and not having any control over it anymore. And so the other kinds of deferred annuities or variable annuities where your money is at risk of loss in the market, and sometimes those annuities have some fairly high fees, they're the kinds that Ken Fisher hates. And then the more popular ones that have been selling like hotcakes are called fixed index annuities. And you can turn them into an income stream, annuitize them. But what most people do is they buy these guaranteed lifetime withdrawal riders. And so you pay a 1% load every year, and you have the ability to turn on the income at some point. And so if you're buying the annuity for income, they can work pretty well. If you're buying it because it's a crash-proof retirement plan and you went to an educational dinner seminar and learned all the ways that you could accumulate stock market returns without any risk, you may not have thought much about the income component of it. So.
Well, yes, the what's called the fixed index annuity has emerged as the most popular annuity right now, and that's for a couple of reasons. The insurance companies like manufacturing them. It would take too long to explain what I mean by this, but they like manufacturing them because they're inexpensive to manufacture. And agents and advisors like selling them because they offer a fairly healthy compensation, more so than other annuities. And individuals like putting their money into them because they offer everything that people want and none of the things that they don't want. They offer a floor under your losses. You can't lose money as long as you keep your money in there for the entire surrender period. You have a chance to get higher than bond returns even though you have complete safety. And you have the option to either take money out at any time or leave the money in and take a guaranteed income that will not run out for as long as you live.
But with these products, again, it is a withdrawal rider, and the insurance company guarantees that the amount that you turn on in year 5 or year 7 or year 10 will continue for your entire life no matter what. So it's like a traditional annuity in that regard, but you don't give up control of your principal, which is one of the reasons why a lot of the boomers like these products, because what happens if I turn it on and I die? Well, the balance of the interest and principal passes along to your beneficiary. And so it's not locked up. And if you do need to get, the balance of the money out for some reason, you could do so. But again, are people really going to do that? Probably not so much. But again, it's perception.
If you want to keep all your options open, guaranteed income, the flexibility to take withdrawals, then this is a product that you might like. But what people, there's certain caveats to this though, because you pay a certain amount. It costs you to keep all these options open, and not everybody who buys these products uses them the way they should optimally use them. And so the question is, it's kind of like those rebate buttons that you see on those rebate tags that you see on things in the grocery store. You say, oh, there's a $10 rebate on this television or whatever it is, and I will buy this television because I know if I mail the rebate in, that I will get $100 back. Now, only about half of the people who buy that television with the rebate are going to send in that rebate card and get the $100 back. And so the people who make the TV know that, and they offer the $100 rebate knowing that they're only going to have to pay out an average of $50.
Well, theoretically, Kerry.
I'm getting a little bit.
Oh yeah, I understand.
In the weeds here.
Theoretically, though, the boomer who wants to supplement Social Security with annuity income and likes the idea of a fixed indexed annuity, they're going to remember they have it and turn the income on. So,
Yeah, well, what happens is very often people will buy what you have to be very careful that when you buy an indexed annuity that you must buy it from somebody that you really trust and who is going to stick with you and advise you for as long as you own it.
Someone who's independent and theoretically objective.
That's right.
So, at any rate, we are running out of time, Kerry. So, again, if someone is interested in learning more about the Retirement Income Journal and possibly becoming a subscriber, how do they do that?
Oh, well, you can just go to www.retirementincomejournal.com and you can sign up for a free newsletter, and you can go to our subscribe page, and if you just want to look around before subscribing, you can see 6 free articles before you get a nudge to subscribe.
And pay some money so
That's
that
right.
you can pay the bills.
That's right.
So, Kerry, it's always fun to talk to you, and I really appreciate you sharing some of your expertise about retirement income planning. Thanks for being on the show.
It's been my pleasure.
Okay. Until next Tuesday, this is Bill Borton saying, have a great week. We'll see you next Tuesday at 11 on RVN TV for more Live Better Longer. Thank you.